What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to go over some baits for you to use during March. So we got the spawn coming up and stuff like that. So I'm sure a lot of you were wondering, what kind of bait you need to be using and stuff like that to catch these spawning bass, the pre-spawn, post-spawn, all that stuff. So we're going to go over all that mess today. So stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. All right, everybody, so welcome back. So we're going to be talking about the best baits, in my opinion, for March. Now, with this being said, I got to show y'all something because I'm really proud of myself and my little girl. We've been out here working on the boat, but we done got this sucker organized in the Triton. Check this out. Done got all my plastics rebagged. Oh, we ready to go. Now, let me sit y'all down here. Bam! Got me a new tripod here so y'all can see a little better. Maybe the lighting. All right. Yeah. Y'all like my professional camera work? If you like my professional camera work, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. It still gets an algorithm. So, but either way, let's go over some baits you can use during March that really help a lot, in my opinion. So let's talk about that transition. So right now, we've got the pre-spawners, especially where I'm from. Now, if you're in like Florida or something like that, more than likely these fish is done spawn. So you got a lot of post-spawners, and then you've got the spawners. So, but typically right now, if you're in the Southeast, you're going to have the pre-spawn going on and the spawn. So one of the questions that I got the other day was about, they were really focused on the water temperature. What water temperature does it need to be from spawn? Look, these fish will start spawning in 50-degree water. The water temperature is not a huge indicator of the spawn, okay? So this is one of the biggest misconceptions in bass fishing, is that the water temperature determines the spawn, and it does to a sense, but it doesn't predict when the fish are going to move up shallow to spawn, okay? What the water temperature does, it tells you that these fish, it's that time for the migration to happen. So you understand that the migration is starting to begin, because in your lakes and in your rivers and stuff, at a particular depth, like on Smith Lake, it's 50 foot. At that 50-foot mark, the water temperature is going to stay the same temperature year round, and then you have the lake rollover, okay? So when people talk about the lake rolling over, what that is that cooler water down there at that 50-degree range goes up to the surface, okay? And then that cooler water that's at the top moves further down, okay? So instead of the water having to heat basically from the top down, what happens is the water flips. Okay, so that 50-degree is down here at the 50-foot mark. The top is like 45, okay? What happens is it'll flip. So now the 50's at the top and the 45's right here, okay? Once it warms up to like 50, okay? And then that way the water temperature will stay the same. That way these fish can move up and down. They're cold-blooded. So whatever the temperature is in the lake, that's whatever temperature the bass is going to be. So Mother Nature's got a weird way of working. We'll just put it that way. But that's what's going on. But don't get too hung up on the water temperature. Pay attention to the moon phases. Your new moons is going to indicate when these fish move up and spawn. So you know when the new moon happens that you're going to have those fish move up to spawn. Especially when your lake's drawed down and then they bring the lake up to full pull, and then you have the new moon, and then these fish just, they'll just start moving up like crazy. That's particularly the time when you're going to start catching a lot of bass and creeks and stuff. So you're going to be moving back up in these creeks, and you're going to be like, wow, all these fish are just here all of a sudden. You know what I'm talking about. You go up in these creeks, and all of a sudden you go from getting a bite here and there to you're just wearing fish out the entire time you're in that creek. Well, you have the meeting of the migration is what's happening. So you got fish that live in the creek, they spawn in the creek, they die in the creek, and then you got the same fish out on the main lake, but they migrate to the creeks to spawn. So now you have a huge population of bass having to compete for a specific amount of bait. So whether that's threadfin shad, gizzard shad, crawfish, whatever that they're feeding on in that creek, okay? So I just want to let that be known. Take a breath. All right, so with that being said, let's talk about one of the baits that I particularly like to use as I'm moving back up into a creek, searching for those spawners and then catching some of the pre-spawners and some of the post-spawners. So one of the biggest ones, and by the way, guys, all these baits will be linked down in the description. Make sure on any of my videos you check the description, okay? Because in the description, it's going to have everything listed and a summary of what I talk about, okay? So just be sure to check the description. Spend a lot of time typing that crap. I got messed up fingers. Look at me. All right, so rattle. This is called the Rattler. This is by Lucky Craft. This is a Rick Clunn edition. These right here work particularly well. Listen. They work particularly well in those muddy water situations. So right now the lakes are going up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's what's happening on my home lake here. And the water's stained, okay? So it's not muddy, but it's stained. These little square bills right here, you can run these around docks, around wood, rocks, it doesn't matter. These come through a lot of stuff, but they have that tight tight wiggle, and they have the tight rattle sound. And what this does is, most of the time, it doesn't necessarily entice the fish to bite, but when they hear something or feel something close on their lateral line, they're going to be looking around. Those rattles help them indicate where it is, okay? So a lot of times if you're cruising by them just a little bit too fast, they're going to swipe at it. Most of the time they're going to miss it, and you're not even going to know there's a fish there. Then you just keep continuing, and you just completely went over that fish. With that rattle right here, they're going to hear it, they're going to feel it on their lateral line, they're going to turn, they're going to get a mouthful, okay? So this is a really, really good crankbait, really, really good sneaky crankbait. I typically stick to the crawfish and the shad colors. Another one. This is in the crankbait session. Berkeley War Pig. You've heard me talk about this before. The Berkeley War Pig, not sponsored by Berkeley or anything, but these are wonderful rattle traps that come through just about anything. The way the nose is designed, this thing dives. It doesn't, I don't want to say it dives deep. It'll dive however deep you want it to, with it being a rattle trap. But what happens is it points nose down as you're bringing it through the water. So when it hits rocks and stuff, it rolls over on its side and it stays nose down. So these hooks are not just catching on everything that you're rolling up over. Because you want the sucker bouncing off of everything, okay, to help entice bites. With all the rattles and stuff, it makes it super easy for the fish to find these. Now, speaking of the muddy water situation that you may be experiencing right now and that you're going to experience throughout spring as we get the spring rains in all around the country, the water's going to be staining up, and this is a little technique that is super simple but super effective. Days like today, as you can see behind me and as you can probably hear in the microphone, the wind's blowing, okay? That is when a spinnerbait bite is insane, okay? We've got grass starting to come up in the lakes. A lot of it's not showing, but you're going to start getting grass on your hooks and stuff like that. Spinnerbait will drive them insane, okay, on these windy, cloudy days, okay, even on the sunny days. But as long as you've got a good wind, spinnerbait will knock their teeth out, okay? So this is a War Eagle River Rat. The biggest thing about this one is on the kicker blade here, you've got that orange blade. And what that does is that gives a little bit of contrast in the water. That way those fish can see that bait a lot better. They come up, they got it, okay? So I'm typically running that in my grassy areas, around docks, laydowns, anything like that, but I want to make sure the water's muddy, okay? If it's not muddy, I'll stick to my regular War Eagle or Booyah, whichever bait, spinnerbait brand you use, spot sticker, doesn't really matter. But the biggest thing is, a lot of times this time of year, I'm going to be running that Colorado to a willow blade, because the little Colorado kicker is going to put out a whoa, whoa, whoa vibration. The willow's not necessarily going to put out a type of sound. It's got a little bit, it does have some kind of sound, but it's not going to make that whoa, 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 like a willow blade typically would, okay? So, plus, you know, it slows the bait down a little bit. So with the water temperature still being anywhere between the 50 to the 64 mark, you know, the bait fish and stuff are still going to be moving slow in the mornings, okay? So just understand that. Now, let's talk about finding fish on bed. So as you find these fish on bed, these baits right here are going to pick up buck bass, okay? They're going to pick up aggressive buck bass. But if you're wanting to target fish that are on bed, there's two particular jigs that I prefer to use. One's a football head, okay? And, you know, I either run green pumpkin, black and blue. I mean, that's about it. Maybe something with some orange like PB&J, something like that. But either way, I particularly run the G Money jig, okay? Y'all have heard me talk about this 100 times. Old dude up in California makes these, Trey Williams, super nice guy, one of the nicest people I've ever spoke to in my life. They make wonderful baits, wonderful jigs. I've used these for years. I've never had an issue out of them a single time. They do have a rubber skirt. Rubber skirt indicates when this hits the bottom, okay? The skirt is actually going to flare out, okay? So it's going to have that stand-up action, which comes in real handy. It looks like a crawfish in defensive position whenever you put a crawl trailer on there, okay? Either way, the G-Money football head jigs is a great one to use with the fish that are bedding. Also, the other ones, where did they go? I lost it. Oh, Lord. Guys, I think I'm out of them. I think I broke them off. I sure did. I actually got one left. This is an old one, but either way, War Eagle heavy finesse jigs, okay? These right here, you can pretty much bring them through anything. They are super, super tough, and they're made to go through cover. The thing is, they do have a thick gauge wire hook, so make sure you're running 20, 25-pound test, or bigger, whatever you want to do. But make sure you're running a good high-quality test. That way, when you set the hook, you're not snapping off on your line. But basically, I'm taking that bait right there, particularly when I spot a fish on bed, and I have a hard time doing it, but when I do spot a fish on bed, I'm taking that bait and I'm casting it over the bed, and I'm bringing that bait up into the bed, and I'm sitting there just shaking it, okay? And it's going to be mimicking a crawfish in a defensive position. A lot of times it just entices the females to pick it up. A lot of times they won't eat it. They're just going to pick it up and take it out of their bed. Now, let's talk about some soft plastics here. There's a couple soft plastics that I like to use this time of year. That's the reason I've got this bag, and that's exactly all that's in it. Oh, either way. So let's talk about these right here. This one right here, this is a rage tail magnum bug. Okay, so rage bug, I'm sure y'all have heard of it before. Now, back in 2012, somewhere around there, many moons ago, I fished a big tournament up on Gunnersville, and what won me that tournament was a bait called the Yum Mighty Bug. I don't know if y'all remember it. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's very, very similar to this bait right here. It has a very, very different action. Now, there's a couple different ways that I actually run this bait. Number one, you can run it with a pegged weight on it. That way this bait sinks and you can put it dead on the beds, okay? Or you can do what I do a lot of times, and I will just Texas rig this, no weight or anything, and I'm running this thing close to the top of the water, okay? When I'm fishing for fish that's on bed with this bait, I have a pegged weight. When I'm fishing for the pre-spawners or the post-spawners, I run it weightless, and I run it through grass, through brush, through all that different stuff, and all the legs and stuff get to kicking, kind of like your soft body frogs that your plastic frogs, like you rig up Texas rigged and stuff, like your Yum frogs and all that, whatever brand you use. But similar to that, it just has a very, very erratic action. I've always had good luck on them. The closest thing I can get to a mighty bug, mighty bugs are discontinued, so you can't really find them anymore, but they work just as good. Little on the pricey side, but hey, it is what it is. What we do to catch fish, right? Another one, old school lizard, standard lizard, green pumpkin, white, bubble gum. It doesn't matter as long as the fish can see it while they're on bed, and you can see it too. That way you know when they got it. But with this right here, typically I'm putting like a 1/4 ounce weight on it, and I've got it pegged, tossing this bait up in here, just flipping and stuff, bringing it onto the bed, and just sitting there shaking it and stuff, trying to get the fish to look at it and seeing if she's paying any attention, showing any type of aggression and stuff. So, but guys, those are the simplest baits that I can tell you to use in March. This is what I use. I have a lot of success with it. Just remember, on your windy days and stuff like that, your spinner baits are going to do really good. Your crankbaits are going to do really good. When you're searching for those pre-spawners and post-spawners, your crankbaits is going to do very good. Also, your bugs, these I still call them mighty bugs, magnum bugs, whatever they're called, rage bugs. Either way, those are going to do really good weightless when you're searching for those fish also. All this stuff will be linked down in the description. It's super simple stuff, guys. Keep it simple. If you keep it simple, you'll catch more fish, okay? We tend to overthink stuff as humans. It's just part of it. So Also, if you don't remember, I've started a members only section. Feel free to join that if you want to help support the channel. It would be much appreciated. Anytime I upload a video, you're going to get it early. Okay, so typically my videos are uploaded a week ahead of time, so you'll be getting these videos early. But either way, guys, I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.